Good morning and welcome. This is Sandra Hess, founder of DTC Wine Workshops, and I'm excited to kick off our introductory webinar with Kevin Smith this morning on loyalty programs and brand development. So without further ado, I would like to begin today's introductory webinar by sharing some information about Kevin Smith. So you'll find all of the consultant network bios and information on our consultant network page at dtcwineworkshops.com. And I've gotten to know Kevin Smith over the years as I've had the opportunity to present out at Fresno State University's wine business and marketing program. And I've gotten to know Kevin as the instructor there and his students each year that go through the program. A really dynamic, exciting market there in Fresno, as they also have their Fresno State Winery. And so I've had the opportunity of tasting some of those wines as well, and just really impressed to see what the winemakers in that region are doing. And so over the years, Kevin has a background supporting Paso Robles in the beginning days in the wine industry with building winery brands, strategic plans, really helping these evolving wine brands learn about things like how to launch a tasting room, a wine club, e-commerce site, loyalty programs, and so forth. So Kevin brings a wealth of knowledge not only to us in today's webinar, but also to Fresno State University as he helps out manage the winery there, along with the coursework that he does as a professor in the business and marketing program. So it is my honor to welcome Kevin, first of all, to the DTC Consultant Network as one of our newest members, helping wineries throughout the nation on a project-by-project with wine marketing strategy, loyalty program development, and branding. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over now to Kevin to share with us his introductory webinar.
Okay, how are we looking? Can we see my screen?
You look great. Can see your screen just fine, and it's all yours, Kevin.
All right, very good. Well, I just want to thank everyone for joining today and giving me an opportunity just to introduce myself and where my key strengths are in working with wineries and growing in their direct-to-consumer business ventures. So a little bit about me, you can see in the photos that my family enjoys a lot of camping and fishing, and we have a vintage camper trailer. We love rebuilding that trailer from the ground up and taking it out around the state. So my journey into the wine world started with my MBA here at Fresno State, and I focused on the wine industry and entrepreneurship. So I did a lot of business launch projects during my time in the MBA program, and as a part of my final thesis, I had an opportunity to draft the strategic sales and marketing plan for the Fresno State Winery. At the time, they were about a 2,000 case a year winery. It's all student-made wines. Fresno State is the first winery in the country, university winery in the country, to have a bonded winery. So now the winery is about a 7,000 case per year winery. After I finished my MBA, I went out to Paso Robles and I worked with 3 or 4 different wineries out there, helping them launch their tasting rooms, their wine clubs, and doing a lot of new events with them and their e-commerce sites. And that was a lot of fun, and I really kind of learned the realities of the wine world out there in Paso Robles, and it's such an exciting and growth environment out there. The opportunity came to come back to Fresno State and just start working for the winery that I had built the strategic plan for. And so my position here is I'm the business and marketing director for the 7,000 case winery, and I'm also on faculty. I teach a wine marketing, sales and marketing course, and I teach also a wine business class. In the time that I've been here, we have done a brand redevelopment project and retooled the brand for Fresno State. We've launched several direct-to-consumer channels, including the wine club, the online e-commerce push, and also the tasting room that we have. We've launched a real special event for our club up near Yosemite. It's a weekend-long event that has just grown and grown, and it's the type of event is booked out usually by the end of the event. The following year's booked out. We've retooled our wine program so that the wines and the wine styles really match where our strengths are and what our consumers like. That's a core part of our consumer loyalty building, is to make sure that we're matching what they look for in the wines. And we've created a lot of club ambassadors here at Fresno State. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And at the same time, we're really using our wholesale relationships that we have in town to also drive our direct-to-consumer market. And I'll talk a little bit about what that means. Okay. So a quote that I've really liked to tag on for today is by Beth Comstock. She's a vice chair for General Electric, and she says that she believes that good marketing essentials are the same at all levels. We're all looking for relevance, context, and connection. And I really like that because the direct-to-consumer market space or market spaces really, that's what it's all about, is making your customers relevant to the business, providing them context and experience in the tasting rooms and in their clubs, and giving them a strong connection through social media and all the other tools that are available to us in staying connected to our members. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the brand development experience I've done here at Fresno State, customer loyalty tools that we've implemented, and then the framework of a action-packed direct-to-consumer sales and marketing plan. So under the brand development, you'll see on the left is the older label that Fresno State had for many years. I know that labels can use freshening every 3 to 4 years, but this label had not been touched for quite some time. So we immediately set off to look at putting together a new brand for the winery, a new look for the label. We definitely wanted to leverage a lot of the university programs, and so for a business that means just relying, taking some stock of your strengths and who you are. You've got to make sure that when you're retooling a brand, you don't drift from who you are and who you are in your customer's perception, because there's your perception of who you are and your customer's perception of who you are, and those might be a little bit different. So we wanted to not just rely on our alumni, because a lot of our customers are basically Fresno State alumni who support the students and support the programs. And I thought, well, we're not a real winery out there in the market space unless we're capturing customers beyond the Fresno State fan base. So we wanted to appeal to wine lovers at a very specific demographic. Okay. We wanted to, because we have a lot of students and a lot of students that graduate from Fresno State at 21 to 25 years old, we definitely wanted to appeal to millennials. And we wanted to create an icon for the winery, which you can see on the label on the left. There's no really symbolism or iconization of the winery that represents the valley where we are, the Sierras, and our founder. So on the far right, you'll see the erudite label. The vine, the red vine, is one of the longest vines in the state, and our founder, Vince Petrucci, planted that some 50 years ago. So we definitely, it's a very well-recognized vine on our property here on campus. And then we put the direct cutout of the Sierra Nevadas behind us on that label as well. The block colors between the black and white is very much appeals to the millennial mindset. One of the features of the millennial mindset is they like block colors and strong contrast. So that's where that got incorporated. We also have created some special wines that go with programs on campus. Like you'll see the 3 bottles in the middle on the bottom, that was in conjunction with our art department. A graduating class of senior graphic design students got to compete to be on a wine label, and we found that working with the existing programs on campus is what makes us most successful. Other key elements of the brand, because the brand is just not just your look, was highlighting our capstone series, where the students' last 3 semesters, they make their own wine. So we are student-made wines. There's no denying that. Some customers have a negative view of that, but we find that you have to stay true to who you are and turn it into a strength. And there's plenty of customers that are enthusiastic about having a new cohort of students come through each year. Really, they're the ones that are creative and have a lot of energy and are interested in new things. So it's a great positive for us to highlight. So we also do student-hosted tastings, again, highlighting the students. And because we're an educational program, we create learning opportunities for our customers. They want to learn things about wines and vintages and origins of certain varietals, and even things that go on out in the farm, and pruning techniques that we're researching and that sort of thing. So we really made the brand extend beyond just the look. The process that we went through on our rebranding started with discovery, and I'm really strong and believe a lot in data-driven decision-making. In my previous life, I was a statistician for the Central Coast Vineyard team out in Paso Robles, and so I took a look at who our customers were. We surveyed our wine club. We did a survey of our customers, our online customers. We got a lot of member input. We did some focus groups. We looked at tasting room surveys, and we also looked at what trends were going on in terms of wine styles. So we did a lot of discovery and just learning, and then we spent some time articulating our own history and our story, who we really think our target market is and should be, and what is our competitive advantage. We then focused on how we're going to position ourselves in the market space here locally in the Central San Joaquin Valley, and looking at the competitive set that we want to present out in the market. And what is our value proposition to the wine consumers? And again, not just to our alumni, because the value proposition to our alumni is different than the value proposition to those millennials or those new customers that we want to capture that aren't necessarily alumni. Okay, so that kind of encapsulates our brand development story over the last 3 years and how we've landed where we are today. Moving on, obviously to most people, customer loyalty and loyalty programs are big, and they're just a critical focus for any direct-to-consumer operation. And it starts for us with, it's hard to learn how to deliver a customer loyalty program without learning who your customers are. So we do a lot of customer analytics in the classroom. My students learn all the tools that are available to them to learn about the customers. They do the work for me. And really collecting the appropriate information on the different customers to learn what drives them in terms of value. So we did wine club focus groups. We do a tasting room survey consistently, and we have online feedback and reviews. We try to reach out to them in as many different formats as we can, and collect that information, and then look at it and see what it's saying to us. What we end up with is, for the most part, is just hyper-personalization in how we interact with our club. So, for example, we have most of the events that we go to, especially the big ones. Fresno State Winery goes to a lot of, those monstrous events where you have 3,000 people or 2,000 people tasting wines, and they're not spending too much time at your table. We do try to build our email lists at those events, and we do a small raffle if you put a card in a jar. And that top right card is an example of personalization, is giving the customer what they want so they can check a box on what kind of news they want. We find that some of our members will drop our newsletter if we're sending them wine specials all the time. You have to do more than just send wine specials. You have to be able to tell stories and provide content. So if they check that box, wine specials, we know that we're safe to send them wine special news. And if they check that off, then we don't. So we actually have 3 different newsletters, and we're not generating 3 different contents from scratch, but we're tailoring the newsletter to meet their interests. We have club choices on rewards, so we bundle our rewards based on, are you a senior alumni who is looking for, maybe you don't live in Fresno, but so you're looking for free shipping and you like personal phone calls, maybe anniversary cards, and you don't really need a lot of options. You want someone to make the decision for you on the wine shipment itself. And so that's a great bundle that appeals to them. The millennial, on the other hand, or the corner hipster, they demand great discounts. They graduate with extreme student debt, so they want discounts. They like partner offers, so like one of our restaurants, Rocket Dogs, they sell our wine and they also provide a discount to a club member. They like parties, a lot of things to do, VIP parties, and then mass customization, where we have choice clubs for them in terms of reds only, whites only, 6 bottles or 12 bottles, but we do it on a mass level. Okay, so you can see lots of examples there of how we try to hyper-personalize a large club. Okay. So another aspect of our customer loyalty is really working with our top members or customers. We have some top customers that are not wine club members, but they certainly spend a lot at the winery. I've reached out to them directly and gotten to know them on a little deeper basis, and I find out what types of organizations they belong to, and then we work with them. So, for example, we have a member who works in the local tourism industry, and when she has a group of 20 or 30 people, we are always there to either go visit their group or their group can come to the winery, and we do really kind of private wine tastings with their groups. We have a great support couple that lives in a very nice retirement home, retirement center. These are all pretty well-to-do retirees, and we go out there and do a food and wine pairing with their chef at the retirement center, and we turn our wine club members into heroes. We put the spotlight on them. They're the ones that get to stand up and talk about the wines and really become our champions and our ambassadors. And we try to put the spotlight on them as much as possible. And we kind of create little sub-clubs. So I usually go out and tell them that if they get 10 or 20 members to sign up for the club, then we'll deliver the entire shipment right to the retirement home. And we do that with sports and Rotary. We have like the Fresno Gardener Society. One of the ladies on the Fresno Gardening Society, I got to know that she was in that group, and I said, hey, have one of your quarterly meetings right here at the winery. And so now they do that every year, and they've extended it down to the Visalia Gardener Society. Another community found out about it, and they come up and do one of their meetings at the winery every year. So I really find that these small, really niche clubs that exist in the community is really where it's at. That's where we get most of our wine club members and most of our interest in sales, and a lot of loyalty is built through those channels. And I love putting a lot of energy into those. So one of the areas that I love to focus on is growth, especially as a winery has really started in the direct-to-consumer market spaces, and whether they need assistance growing in that area, or really I think what's a great challenge and requires a lot of strategy is as you grow, as you're expanding your direct-to-consumer and you find that you also need to start looking at your wholesale markets. A lot of wineries don't really plan correctly for distribution or wholesale. So I love working with wineries and coming up with a very strategic marketing plan that has a focus on direct-to-consumer and provides for some thoughtfulness on how they're going to grow their overall business. So the plan includes a lot of steps. The reason I called it an action plan is because I always like to end with some really concrete steps for the following year and breaking it down by quarter in terms of what you're going to tackle. But we start by looking at our various customer segments. For Fresno State, it was the supportive alumni and the local explorer. And of course, like I said, in the wine club, that can translate into different bundles of benefits that they might get and different types of things that they need from us or from what they want from us. So we don't treat all of our customers the same, but we also try and bundle them into different groups. We also look at our potential market size and we narrow it down by how much we can expect to grow reasonably over the next 3 years. So we look at some statistics in the wine market and where the market's growing and if the market's growing larger and what we can reasonably expect to capture out of that market. We do a lot of steps. We look at our SWOT analysis. What are our internal strengths? What are our internal weaknesses that we need to compensate for? What are some opportunities out in the wine industry overall, and what are some threats that we need to be prepared for? So, for example, down here in the San Joaquin Valley, definitely the drought would be considered a threat that we need to have a response plan for, and what are we going to do with that? Definitely budgeting is a big concern because oftentimes in wine businesses, the budget tends to get absorbed in the growing, the vineyard, and in the winemaking, and what's left over tends to go into marketing and the selling of the wine. So I'm a big champion with my students who are all winemakers in training to make sure that budgeting in your direct-to-consumer needs to be a focus. And within that budget, you need to spend 80% of your resources, your time and your money on the top 20% of your revenue gainers. You need to focus on retaining your customers, your existing customers, more than replacing them. It's 6 times more expensive to replace a loyal customer than it is to keep one. So make sure part of your budget is in what are you going to do to keep your existing customers. You need to have proper wine costing and know really the true cost of your wines. That helps you make smart decisions about your discounts and your promotions that you're going to do in the tasting room or as you go beyond that. And then you come up with an integrated marketing plan on how you're going to use all the tools available to you, whether it's online or in the store or events, and make sure that they all coalesce together. So really that's the story for Fresno State in terms of how we've re-engineered the brand over the last 3 years, how we look at customer loyalty, and how we put together a strategic and comprehensive direct-to-consumer sales and marketing plan that includes looking at how you use your wholesale markets and your distribution to feed back into your direct-to-consumer.